I'm admitting everybody.
You're good.
So it won't let me just let you know. I'm not able to highlight me until Dr. Jerry is in. So you'll be highlighted. All right. So welcome everyone to our 90-day daily call. Neumi'S corporate decided a few weeks ago, well, maybe about a month ago now, that we would come on every day to just kind of present the technology and the opportunity that's called Neumi'S. Just to be able to help get the word out and share the word. My name is Keith Chasson, Double Diamond with Neumi'S. I'm just kind of an introductory tonight. I'm going to actually introduce now a good friend of mine, me and Jamie's. We didn't know Rhonda Dasher before we partnered with Neumi'S, but oh, what a joy it's been to get to know the heart and soul of this amazing lady. And so let me introduce her now. You'll get to listen to her for a couple minutes. She'll be the one introducing our main speaker tonight. So, Rhonda, thanks for being here and take it away.
Yes, I see. I see you, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you,
Keith,
Ron.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be back here. My goodness, a week has flown by. If you were here last week with Dr. Jerry, I said he fed us from a pure fire hose. Keith Chasion, our sponsor for this, that's coming in to pick up all the slack while we have people that are everywhere. We're opening up Peru now. We've got Guadalajara with some activity. Of course, all of our people are now in Indonesia. They just left the Philippines, and here we are still learning the amazing technology of hydrostat. My name is Rhonda Dasher, and I'm a founding field advisory board member, which simply means I have been here since the beginning, even before we even had a name for this thing. Glutathione has been my space for about 15 years. I tried everything I knew to become what I would call an expert in it. And what I found out is that we will never know everything we need to know about glutathione. So what do? We keep learning. I had an amazing experience with glutathione, and I just say it brought me back to life when nothing else could. And it wasn't overnight. And that helped me to understand. Now, if you know my story, you know that I was not a supplement taker. I was about like Steve Scott, supplements don't work. They just make your urine a brighter color. And he says he can do that simply by holding it. That basically was my theory. Boy, was I wrong. And I was able to bump into this little tripeptide that I'd never heard of. And it really did radically change my health and the trajectory of my life. And I wound up chasing after health, and I wanted to share it with the world. And I came over with Steve when nanotech technology and hydrostat was birthed, and quickly ranked up to double diamond, which was another thing. I was not going to do network marketing because I didn't believe in that as well. But I found out I got some very good friends. Dr. Jerry would be one, and Keith. And now all of you on here, I see so many of my people that I just absolutely love you. And what I love about you is that you're changing not just your health, but you're changing the health of so many people. And I was one of those people that was groping around wondering, what's wrong with me? I'm doing everything right, but something's wrong. And somebody loved enough to speak to me about glutathione. And that person now is you. And so as we move forward on these calls, Dr. Jerry has come to the table while everybody's traveling, and Keith, and they're doing some great education. There's never a time when you don't learn. And when you quit learning, you might as well close the coffin because you're dying on the inside. And I love to show up here because I love to hear what else can I learn about this little tiny tripeptide that's so powerful in our body, and none other than Dr. Jerry Shaw, who can bring that great information. I loved meeting him. I did not realize he was in functional medicine. I didn't even know there was such a thing as functional medicine. And boy, was I wrong when I realized that not just traditional medicine, but there's lots of different kinds of medicine. They help you walk in to healing, health, and wholeness. He was a doctor of chiropractic medicine. He studied kinesiology, traditional Chinese methods, both domestic and abroad. He's ran clinics, several clinics in the California area, and retired from all of that and has stepped over, of course, full time now into what we call network marketing. And he is using some of his special gifts and talents and abilities to push us forward so we can become not necessarily experts, but so we can help others to understand what we never maybe have heard, and all that experience wrapped up into a powerful call. I say get your pad, get your pencil, because you want to make sure you take copious notes, and still there's time to bring someone to this call. These are powerful calls that will change you, your health, and your business. So let me bring Dr. Jerry Shaw. He is a crown all the way to the top in our company and a powerful man of explaining the technology of what we have. Dr. Jerry?
Wow, Rhonda, you're amazing. That was amazing. That was an amazing litany of information, and almost I just have to bow out at this point. It was so good. Anyway, you're right. We're all still learning, and we can't stop learning. Otherwise, yes, we just as well shuffle off the mortal coil, because there is so much in this world to know and to explore and to wonder about and to just learn more about. And glutathione is one of those things. I actually first was hearing about it, of course, in the later 70s. So I've been around the block a while in professional school, in college. And it was referenced as a very powerful endogenous antioxidant. In fact, the most important antioxidant, because it was made by our body. And something to understand is, and my philosophy, and it goes back to why functional medicine, the human body is very capable giving all the right ingredients. Now, Rhonda talked about not really believing in supplements. Well, our ancestors probably didn't need to have supplements. Much of the farming that was done in those days was done very close to the land. The soil was conditioned naturally. It was full of nutrients. And so people really didn't even think about taking a supplement. You know, what good would that do? Just eat your food. And back in those days, that was perfectly fine. But we've advanced beyond that, some good and some bad. And some of the bad ways is we let go of the family farms, the small farms, turned it more and more and more over to big agribusiness. And it became more and more and more about money. And anytime it's about, the bottom line is about money, then you just look at what causes greater amounts of production, what causes it to be easier to be harvested and packaged and delivered. What made it healthy just kind of went out the window. It was secondary. So we, in these later generations, we became compromised, and myself included, struggled with my well-being. And that's why I got into functional medicine, because that was following my own desire to find wellness. And that's why I studied all of those different disciplines, from Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine to kinesiology to herbology to homeopathy. But I ended up meeting some great doctors and ended up working with some great doctors. And that was just meant to be. I think we can't really question our path in this life. You know, it's just continue to focus, look at your day, what you have to do each day, and do the best that you can with each day, with your moment, with what you have, and be grateful. And I truly was grateful. And the people I met and that were brought to my life were amazing. And they taught me a lot of things. And it was in 1985 that we were uncovering the real importance of glutathione, even way back then, because we were encountering a lot of difficult cases. And those difficult cases were handed to us often because we would work with them, whereas mainstream medicine had given up on them. And so what's the cause? How can the only way you could really help these people was to try to figure out what's causing this imbalance, what's causing this dis-ease in their body. And we found a lot of gut issues upon testing that just seemed like gut was behind every disease. But that seemed to also correlate also with the liver complications. And gut and liver are tied so closely together. And you understand that when you look at different aspects of functional medicine, and when you look at the traditional medicines, the tie between the gut and the liver. And in fact, in allopathic medicine or the mainstream medicine, we definitely understand the first place the blood goes to from the gut is the liver. And there's a reason for that. The liver is kind of like that. If all of the different organs were, let's say, captains and colonels and different people kind of getting the army together, and all of the cells, the trillions of cells were the soldiers, the liver is the general. The liver is kind of the one in charge of all of this signaling and getting everything right, and getting rid of the bad things and putting together the good things, and helping the body achieve a state of balance. It comes down to the liver. So the blood goes there first. Well, what happens when the gut isn't working properly? You end up absorbing things that you should not absorb. Again, back in our ancestors' days, most people had a good, hearty, integrity in their gut. The gut only let in the nutrients that were digested to the point that they could be handled by the body and utilized perfectly as nutrients. But in these days, we've embarked on a lot of things that actually harm the gut, and the list is long: herbicides and pesticides and various medications and antibiotics, and even stress levels and not getting adequate sleep, and all of these kinds of things throw off the gut. Just like, the emotions, one of the brains, the first brain is in the head, second brain, the heart, the third brain in the gut. You feel it in your gut, all of these feelings that we have. And when you're stressed out, your gut just begins to shut down. So what happens when the gut gets stressed out, when it gets toxic, when the normal flora gets imbalanced, is it begins to erode the integrity of the gut. Now it becomes permeable. Now it leaks large molecules that end up in the blood, molecules that shouldn't be there, and that activates the immunity. But immunity that shouldn't always be activated every day, every time you eat, the immune system active, it wears it out. Just like if you were tasked with a job that you should be able to do, once in a while, and you have to do it all the time, you wear out. You're certainly not at the top of your game. For our immune system to be at the top of its game, it needs to be sharp, it needs to be focused. And when it's on all the time, it loses that. So when those molecules then get taken to the liver to get broken down, so the liver can make more of those, what they're called macrophages, the things that circulate and gobble up these particles. The liver creates the precursors for these things, so it's part of its job. But the liver is dealing with other things. It's dealing with the air, food, and water. It's dealing with toxins in the environment. It's dealing with all of the things, the stress and not getting enough sleep, and all of these things that we throw at our body. And so it gets running behind. And what happens when the liver runs behind? It stores things for later. Can't deal with that now, let's store it for later. Where does it store the toxins that it can't process? Most of those are fat soluble. It stores them in the fat cells. You look around and you see a lot of people carrying extra belly weight, that belly fat. That's the big issue. The incidence of fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and other forms of fatty liver disease are actually epidemic right now. It's projected that it could be as much as 40% or more, and it's gaining ground all of the time. So very soon, half the people could have fatty liver disease, which is a problem because that leads to further breakdown of liver function, which is everything to do with the blood, all of those blood tests values that you take, whether it's red blood cells, white blood cells, enzymes, hormones, precursors for immunity, all of those different immune cells. It's this is reading what the liver's doing. And so you don't want to stress the liver out or slow its function down. But now on top of that, you have it being unable to produce the macrophages necessary to handle the load. What happens? The killer cells get called out. There's two sets of killers, there's actually more, but the main two, Th1, Th2, the T cells. Th1 is very precise, very active, very good at what it does, but it requires high levels of glutathione. And what I didn't mention was one of the tissues that have the highest amount of glutathione are the liver and the gut and the brain and the nervous system. all of the in an immune system, and very valuable for the immune system. So all of these things are coming together, and they're all interrelated. So speaking of the Th1, those killer cells, they need high levels of glutathione to actually function, because the glutathione needs enough glutathione peroxidase to get rid of the peroxide that it squirts on the invaders, so that it goes and targets to kill. And if there's not enough glutathione to produce the glutathione peroxidase, an enzyme, then it switches over to Th2. Th2 is the secondary. It's like the second string quarterback that's not so good at discerning what to attack and what not to attack. That's very dangerous. That's why the body doesn't want to call upon it, but it's held in reserve. And if there's not enough glutathione, now you have Th2 circulating and targeting lots of different peptides. If it starts recognizing peptides that your body tissues are made up of, then it will react to those. And the dangerous thing about a T cell is it makes a template. It actually makes a copy of that particular protein structure so that it can recognize it in the future. That's your immunity, so that it can keep that immunity for sometimes up to 25 years. And imagine if it recognizes proteins of the thyroid, and now it's termed Hashimoto's because you start reacting to your thyroid. Imagine if it reacts to the amino acid profile on the myelin sheath of the nerve. Now you have an inflammation on those nerve sheaths, and it's called multiple sclerosis. Imagine if it attacks connective tissues, then it could be called scleroderma, or there's another skin autoimmune disease. I can't pull it out just yet. If it's in the spinal cord tracts, it could be ALS. If it's parts of the brain, it could be Parkinson's. It's all of these autoimmune diseases. Why are they epidemic? And they certainly are. So many diseases are epidemic these days. And we're looking at higher incidences, not only of autoimmune diseases, but Alzheimer's, of metabolic disorders like diabetes and cancers, different kinds of inflammatory diseases, all seemingly on the rise. Why in the United States do we rank 41st in life expectancy? We spend more money on healthcare of anywhere in the world. What is wrong? The thing that's wrong is we're not understanding this. We're not understanding how to upregulate the function of this. We're too focused on the pathology and what do we do about this pathology, instead of understanding where did that pathology come from. Well, it came from an imbalance, and all of these things we're talking about, whether it's liver, gut, liver, immune system, digestion, nervous system, brain, and all of these things that work together continually 24/7. If they're out of sync for one reason or another, then bad things begin to happen. And glutathione is one of the main things the body uses to help keep that balance. Over 400 known functions, many of them about helping to bring a balance to the body, about helping. It's the master antioxidant, but also the master, the main detoxifier of the cell. It is the protector of the mitochondria and the mitochondrial DNA. It helps facilitate the metabolism of the body from within the mitochondria. It helps the cell function in many, many different ways, from signaling and receptor sites on the cell. All of these things glutathione does. Too numerous to mention on this call, but just think about this. Consider this. The liver has 500 known functions, and if your glutathione levels are low, liver function plummets. So just that one aspect of what glutathione does supports 500 functions of that particular organ. Think about the brain and supporting brain function and cognition and those kinds of things, and the nervous system and keeping the nervous system sharp and firing properly. Think about the we went over the gut and the digestion and how important that is. And when that begins to break down, it sets up that whole cycle of unwellness. So all of these things are dependent upon glutathione. In fact, out of the 400 functions of glutathione itself, many, if not most of them, our life depends upon it. So what's the problem? Well, we have it inside of us, right? So why is it a problem? Why are we even talking about it? Well, every year that we live, actually every day that we live, we manufacture a little bit less of it. And that's backwards. We should manufacture more of it, because as time goes by and as you get older, and remember when the liver stores things that it can't process, and stores things in the fat cells and et cetera, we have more toxins in our body as we get older, not less. So why do we have less glutathione? Well, one of the things that blocks our ability to produce glutathione in the first place are toxins. The toxins block the genes. That's a multi-step process the body goes through to create glutathione. And there's a couple of very important genes involved. And one of those becomes blocked. The main one, the one that puts the glycine, glutamate, and L-cysteine together, and you got glutathione, boom. That one can be blocked by heavy metal toxins, the very thing that glutathione is good for. So it's a real paradox. And so you have heavy metal toxicity, but you can't produce the thing that's the best thing to get rid of it. So that's why we need glutathione. Another thing that blocks that gene are mycotoxins. Mycotoxins comes from having mold exposure. So one of the best things to get rid of the mycotoxins is what? Glutathione. Another thing that blocks that gene is the nutrients, trace minerals and things that are in the cell. Things like magnesium and selenium and things like that don't necessarily even get into the cell because the membranes are blocked and all kinds of issues with importing the nutrients into the cell. So it just begins shutting down. So here's the brilliance. Stephen Scott invented a nano-sized glutathione. And it's the first time ever that we could actually even talk about getting glutathione into the body, because for 50 years, we haven't been able to. Not efficiently, not effectively. So we were relying on giving people the right foods and making sure they were outside in the sun and getting the right amount of exercise, because exercise increases it, but too much exercise depletes it. So it was always just very messy, always just very hard. So we didn't even talk about glutathione. Most doctors won't even talk about it because they don't even think it's an effective therapy. But now it can be. And now it's really needed to support the human body, to support its ability to do hundreds of different mechanisms to help keep it balanced. And now we can get it into the cell because of the nano process that Stephen Scott was able to put it through, well, his scientists and researchers. And that's just because of his massive amounts of connections he has all around the world with these top-notch people, and his mission at seeking the solution for glutathione that people were becoming more and more and more aware of. So he drew these people to him like a magnet, and they had a breakthrough just a few years ago. And that breakthrough was getting it below 10 nanometers. But it didn't stop there. It couldn't stop there, because as soon as those glutathione molecules went into the blood, they would clump together and they'd be large again. So they had to create a capsule to carry it. Now here's the real brilliance: hydrostat technology. That's taking an oxygen and two hydrogen, that's water, H2O, two hydrogens, H2, one oxygen, and taking those bonds from the hydrogen atoms off the oxygen and bending them so that it grabbed the glutathione molecule. Now you've got a little envelope carrying the glutathione, absolutely brilliant, goes to the surface of the cell. The cell wants the water, takes it in. And so once it's in the cell, it's not a huge amount of glutathione. And that was my issue with IV administration, because anytime you take a huge amount of anything and you deliver it into the body, oftentimes you burden the body in getting rid of the excess. So it's just that perfect amount gets into the cell. And what happens? It starts to unlock that gene, because glutathione is really good at removing heavy metals. It's really good at removing mycotoxins. It's really good at getting the cell functioning at a higher level so that it's starting to utilize, metabolize nutrients more efficiently. Those genes begin to light up. Your body begins to be able to produce more glutathione on its own. Plus, you're able to swish on a daily basis and keep that cycle going. And along with the swish and the nanoglutathione is a nano-L-cysteine, which is called the rate limiting factor, because it's the one most needed of the three peptides to create glutathione. So it's all very, very brilliant. And when I heard about this, I just slapped my head and went, wow, fortunately in my lifetime, someone cracked this code. And of course I told people. And that's, the only secret to becoming crown is you tell a story. And 2 years ago, when we got involved here, Stephen Scott told us, he tells the story better than anyone. And just like Rhonda said, he's in, right now they're in Indonesia. They just were in the Philippines for a while. Now in Indonesia, it's very exciting. Lots of people, like 12,000 people in Indonesia want in this because they realize the importance of this breakthrough. All around the world, 60 plus countries realize the importance of this breakthrough. So we let Stephen Scott tell the story of glutathione. And almost everyone that heard that story said, I want to try that. And here's the thing about glutathione. It's not something that you try and you go, wow, it just rocks your world. A few people it does. A few people actually claim they see better. A few people actually claim that their joints are moving better almost immediately. But typically what glutathione does, because it's natural to the body, so it's not foreign like caffeine or some herb like ma huang or guarana or something like that would actually stimulate the body and give you energy. But what it does is supports your own body's ability to carry out and create energy, your own body's ability to process nutrients and get the right things in and get the bad things out. And your own body's ability to protect the cells and extend keep the telomeres long and keep the tissues functioning properly. That's functional medicine. That's the difference between functional medicine and many of the medicines practiced today, is understanding how can we upregulate what this body does and help it do it better, more efficiently, more effectively, and more completely. That's it. And this hits it the nail on the head. So share the story. That's all we did 2 years ago. And people that I shared the story with, what did they do? They brought people to hear the story. You don't have to know all of the things I just explained or all of the things that Steve talks about on the calls when he does them, because he'll be back next week. And you'll be able to hear him. He's brilliant at telling you all about glutathione, because he better than any scientist or doctor or researcher I've ever heard. He knows it inside and out. And just bring people and have him explain it and let them hear it. And then they want to try it and have them understand, make sure they take a before picture and then compare it with their after picture, like at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It gets better and better and better. But I also recommend getting next time you get a physical exam, if you can get in right away, get a blood test, include a liver panel, things like that, so that you can actually make some comparisons at 6 months, a year, etc. Because if you're supporting your body, what do you think is going to happen? Your body's really good at helping create balance and helping create wellness. So if you support that, that's what it's all about. So then tell the story. And when you tell the story and it comes from your heart, because it's the truth, then people listen. And then they get involved and they tell the story. What a great business that is. And, this weekend is Mother's Day. I was able to go out with my wife this morning, and I decided, I tell you what, let's go out to lunch. We went to a really nice place. I didn't know it was such a nice place, but it was like fine dining. We weren't even dressed for it, but it was all good. And one of the greatest things that in life is your time. And one of the things that this can bring you is time freedom. Because when you build a business that is about something that helps people, and people naturally have that kindness and caring and compassion in them, it's built in. And then they want to share the same thing that helps other people. Now you have a business based on that goodwill, and it doesn't stop. It just keeps going. And what's that do? That buys you a life, and that buys you time, and that buys you things that you can do that perhaps maybe you weren't able to do. So network marketing is a great thing. And I know Rhonda said she stopped believing in network marketing, but when it's done right and it's about the right product, There's nothing better. And you are all very blessed to be here right now and hear about this, because it's just getting started, truly. So get back to the person that invited you to this call and get back right away. I wouldn't let any grass grow under your feet, because this is moving fast. And we'll be back again on Monday. And Stephen Scott will be back next week. So you're in for a treat if you haven't heard him yet, because he's amazing. So thank you all. God bless you.